At 3:56 p.m. on Wednesday, the 1st of November, I sat down to write the video that you are currently watching. At the moment, I was also writing the script for September's video, and needless to say, this was a mildly stressful scenario. What you see now is somewhat dramatized footage of that moment.
Alright, time to make a cool new video.
I began October with Jaws. What a great movie to start with. It was really well written, it had great cinematography, all that cool stuff and more. After seeing this movie, I kinda understood why some people are scared of sharks. If I was some guy walking out of a theater in the 70s, I would be terrified of fish too. The movie was surprisingly gory and the practical effects looked really good. I was also surprised to see that the film had a few really good scares throughout its runtime. Bruce the shark was also a great antagonist. He's very intelligent, but so are the protagonists that are hunting him, which makes their conflict a lot of fun to watch. The movie isn't super hung up on showcasing the shark. He actually isn't seen that much, and there are a lot of long breaks where we get to know the characters, and by the end of the movie you really care about them. The movie is incredible, and you should watch it if you haven't already. After that, I watched 500 Days of Summer. And let me just say, I don't appreciate how much I had to suspend my disbelief when I watched this. You're telling me that an alt-rock fan got a girlfriend? No, that's impossible. That doesn't happen. I listen to that kind of music and I haven't had a good conversation with a human female in about 6 months. This movie is fantasy. In all seriousness, though, I did like this movie a lot more than I expected. I'm not a huge fan of most rom-coms. I think they mostly pander to a very specific audience, that being women, and I'm not a woman. That said, I think that 500 Days of Summer is a movie that just about anyone can enjoy. I thought the relationship between the two main characters was very compelling to watch, and the actors that played them had very good chemistry on screen. Each of them delivered a great performance, especially ya boy here, who is literally me. The nonlinear storytelling was not only an interesting choice, but an intelligent one, because it establishes that the main character, who is essentially just reliving the memories of his relationship, is unreliable. And that not everything we're seeing is true, which is realistic because we're seeing everything through his eyes, which are covered by rose-tinted glasses, which is a very realistic way to show his perspective on the relationship, and ties into the end of the film very well. There Will Be Blood was recommended to me when I was incredibly sick, so this is kind of like a comfort movie for me now. I'd say that this is probably the best movie I've watched this month, but not my favorite. I think that it used its runtime very well and did a very good job at having things in the plot that didn't overstay their welcome, but I also think that Paul Thomas Anderson could have fit a little more into the story. There are a lot of really great scenes throughout the film with powerful and memorable performances like that of the baptism scene, but also more subtle moments that give us insights into what the characters are like, such as the opening scene, which shows us just how self-destructive Daniel Plainview is when he tries to achieve something. The performance from Daniel Day-Lewis was phenomenal, but I also think that Paul Dano was just as good, and I think it's impressive that he was able to have a performance that was just as memorable and well done as Daniel Day-Lewis's, while also refraining from seeming as though he's trying to outdo him. I thought there was also some great cinematography that really elevated the movie, a good score composed by the guitarist for Radiohead, yes, that is real, and a lot of other details that tie this movie together and make it the masterpiece that it is. After that, I watched The Lighthouse. I talked a little bit about this in my horror movie video, and in that video I said that it was a lot like The Shining, which I still think is absolutely true. But I also was reminded a bit of Wes Anderson when I watched it, mainly because of the cinematography. There was a lot of symmetry and unusual angles, which made this black and white movie feel just as vibrant as a colored film. This was also my first Robert Eggers movie that I've seen, and I thought he did a wonderful job at creating overstimulating and disturbing sequences that don't exactly scare you, but definitely make you feel really uncomfortable. I liked the dynamic between Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson, who each gave the best performances that I've seen from each of them, especially Pattinson. I think that it's a terrible thing that he's still just the vampire from Twilight to some people, because he really is a remarkable actor. I think the horror of this movie is really something special, and I think it's because the monster of this movie is something real. My interpretation is that the light, which is the closest thing that we have to a monster in this movie, kind of symbolizes power and knowledge, and it tantalizes the main character, corrupting him, and we see just how far that yearning for the light drives him to descend further into madness and eventually destroy himself, which is something that I think can easily happen in real life. And I wrapped up the month with The Thing, my favorite movie from October, and arguably the best horror movie of all time. The film was excellently cast with a good ensemble of actors that play off of each other as though they are naturally existing together in the situation that they're in. And you get attached to a lot of characters, which makes you feel terrible when someone dies, or even worse, gets taken over and turned into a thing. While the monster itself is scary, I think that what's even scarier is the feeling of distrust between each character, and not knowing if anyone is who he says he is. With the exception of one shot, I think the special effects are some of the most impressive I've ever seen. I thought that while it was super intense, the film had some good comic relief moments that lightened the tension while also having the restraint to keep from breaking it. There aren't any parts of this movie that are weak or anything like that. I can't really see any fault with the movie. It's basically science fiction Reservoir Dogs, and it's my favorite horror film, and it's definitely worth the watch. And that's what I watched this month. Thank you for watching. If you have any movie recommendations, please leave them in the comments. And until then, I'll see you next time.